Duke versus UNC, what many would call the best rivalry in college basketball. I won't start that fight or debate here, but it is a Saturday 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time tip-off on ESPN. Number 7, Duke. Number 3, UNC in the AP poll. Eli, you have Duke number 10 and UNC number 6. Haslametrics would make this spread just a little bit more than 6 points for UNC with a over-under of 152. What catches your eye in this latest edition of this great rivalry?
Yeah. And finally, we have, well, shouldn't say finally, but at least this year, we have it as a top 10, top 15 matchup, depending on where maybe you, the viewer or listener, has Duke and UNC power rated, or at least in your maybe mind with college basketball rankings. But I make this closer to around UNC -5, maybe a tick under 5.5. So I'm a little lower than the Haslametrics spread, but good bounce back spot for the Tar Heels for sure. I will say Georgia Tech and Florida State both exposed UNC's perimeter defense to the point that I brought up on these last couple outside shots episodes. Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets shooting 9 of 20 from 3 in that upset win over UNC as a 7.5, 8-point home underdog. And that was really the difference, because when you go back to UNC's first 9 games in the new year, allowing opponents to shoot, ACC opponents to shoot 22.5% from 3. So Florida State and Georgia Tech have both kind of forced that negative regression for UNC's perimeter defense that I thought was coming. Duke is shooting 40.3% from deep, despite their below average, league average, I should say, 3-point attempt rate. And Jared McCain, even though he didn't shoot that well against Vatek in that win over the Hokies, a lot of bettors, by the way, thought that was going to be a road upset, a loss in terms of Duke. But McCain didn't shoot well, didn't really matter in that game, but his three-point efficiency has really propelled Duke's offense of late. So has Tyrese Proctor, though, when you look at the way he's played over the last 5 games, 16.4 points per game while shooting just below 50% from 3. So is Duke going to hit outside shots? Are they going to take enough outside shots to really exploit UNC's defense, on top of the fact that Armando Bacot continues to get pinned in some of these isolation situations against guards, like we saw on Georgia Tech's eventual game-winning shot in the final minute against the Tar Heels on Tuesday night. Now, I will say for UNC on the plus matchup side of things, one of the best offensive rebounding teams, not maybe on the same level as Houston, but number 1 in offensive rebounding percentage in ACC play. Duke isn't elite, kind of to the point that you brought up with Houston when you look at some of their strength of schedule metrics. I know they're 4th in defensive rebounding rate in ACC play, but Filipowski is the biggest big on the floor. Decent post defender, but it's not like this Duke team has a ton of size and aggressive rebounders like Houston or maybe St. John's has with Joel Soriano. So that's the one area of concern I have with Duke, is can they clean up the defensive glass enough against Bacot and these hyper-aggressive UNC offensive rebounders?
I would be surprised come tip-off Saturday if I don't have a bet on Duke in this game, taking the points. And again, if I do, lines.com, top right corner, free Discord channel. I'll pop it in there in the Staff Basketball Bets server. Just on surface level, Eli, in conference play, I have one team here that ranks number 2 in the ACC in effective field goal percentage, and the other ranks 11th in effective field goal percentage. And I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear that it's Duke that is higher there than North Carolina. I agree with you. I think they've been relying on 3-point defense. I think Duke, I just went on a rant about Houston and Kansas. I think Duke is fairly smart about the type of shots that they take. They are 1st in the nation in 3-point percentage against the average opponent. They are top 65 in near proximity field goal percentage against the average opponent. And yet they rank 253rd in mid-range attempt rate. Love that. Love that shot selection from Duke. It's a reason why they're, a lot of them considered one of the best academic schools in the country. Even their basketball team plays smart offense. You love to see.
Don't do this. Don't do this.
Yeah, I don't usually hate Duke, but if I'm going to put money on them, I'm going to like Duke that day. Let's be honest. I went to Syracuse. We've had plenty of, Boeheim meltdowns in Cameron Indoor over the years. So
that's fair.
On the other side here with North Carolina, shouldn't this offense be better? I don't get it. Like, I look at these numbers and I kind of scratch my head and say, like, this is a top 3 team in the country. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. They are, 72nd in 3-point percentage. That's pretty decent. They are 111th in mid-range, 165th in near proximity, but their rim and 3 rate is 251st in the country. They're a pretty efficient team. They have a lot of talented players. RJ Davis is great. Just, I don't know, Eli. It doesn't, what I see with my eyes and what I watch looks better than the numbers I see on these advanced metrics sites, and it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And what I see on sites like Haslametrics makes me think maybe Duke is the team with the higher ceiling once we get to March here. And I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I'm having trouble squaring my eyes and what the numbers say here.
I don't blame you. And Georgia Tech didn't or doesn't run the kind of matchup zone press that we saw under Josh Pastner during his tenure with the Yellow Jackets, but they threw some zone at UNC, and UNC didn't react well, especially when they got in foul trouble. Now, RJ Davis can negate that on his own with the way and the level he's playing at offensively. But yeah, I'm kind of with you, and that was to my point earlier, is UNC, or if Duke throws zone at UNC, and if UNC's offense is therefore inefficient, will they produce enough offensive rebounds? So we both kind of agree that's the conclusion for the Tar Heels if they struggle offensively in the half court again.